Wonder if everyone could have a seat, please. We're going to start in less than a minute. It's eerily quiet. I would start, but legally I can't until it says 6 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting of Bloomington City Council to order. Everyone will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Mathey?
Here.
Councilmember Bolin?
Here.
Councilmember Mwambwe?
Present.
Councilmember Emig?
Here.
Councilmember Painter?
Here.
Councilmember Carrillo?
Here.
Councilmember Crable?
Here.
Councilmember Bray?
Here.
Mayor Renner?
Here. Wonder where Alderman Black is. Yeah. Anyway, at this point we're going to start with recognitions and appointments. We have a presentation of Bloomington firefighters who have completed a one-year probation. And Chief, come on down, and everyone else, family, friends, colleagues, please. This is your ceremony, and we are so thrilled for all of what our first responders do, and to have 3 new ones inducted in one evening is fantastic. Come on behind here by the dais so we can have good pictures that you can send your friends and relatives and make sure you stay in the will. I mean, what looks more impressive than this? I'm seriously. I'll move up. You can scrunch back here. Yeah, we can. We've got, come on. Our men in blue, come on, man.
Hey, thank you, Mayor and City Council. Tonight, we have 3 individuals that have completed their one-year probation. They completed that on November 26th, and they're here to be sworn in front of the city clerk and the council. First, we have Benjamin Stolitz. Ben, step forward. Ben was born and raised in Riverton, Illinois. After high school, he attended Lincoln Land Community College. He worked as a paramedic in Springfield for a private ambulance service for 5 years prior to being hired by the city of Bloomington. Ben wanted to become a firefighter after graduation of paramedic school. He enjoys the family aspect that comes with living life at a fire station and how no day is ever the same. It has been the best career choice, and he's very thankful to be working for the Bloomington Fire Department. With him tonight are his father, Tad, his mother, Mona, his grandmother, Rita, grandfather, Ed, Uncle Trevor, Aunt Julie, and his girlfriend, Zoe. And if they'd please stand up for just a second, please. And next we have Matthew Buck-Rue. Matthew is from Grand Ridge, Illinois. In attendance with him are his parents, Jim and Michelle Rue, and his sister, Madison. Buck wanted to become a Bloomington firefighter to better himself, the community, and the department, he says, hopefully. Buck looks forward to furthering his education and gaining job-related skills to be a well-versed firefighter for the wide variety of tasks he may encounter. And would his family please stand up? And next we have Michael Maines. Michael is from Shorewood, Illinois. He is accompanied by his father, Michael, and mother, Marilyn. After high school, Michael continued his junior hockey career while attending Joliet Junior College. Michael earned his associate's degree in fire science from JJC. Michael's passion for a career in the fire service began during his EMS training at Romeoville Fire Academy. Michael's continued his fire service training by self-registering and successfully completing both the Northern Illinois Public Safety Training Academy and the Silver Cross Hospital Paramedic Program. Michael looks forward to being a long, rewarding career with the Bloomington Fire Department. And his family. Where's his family? Where do you want them to stand?
Actually, I think it's stand on that side. Okay. All right, and what we're going to do is you're going to raise your right hand, and then when I will start and I'll say I and pause. At the pause, you'll say your name, and then after that, just repeat after me. I, having been appointed to the office of firefighter in the city of Bloomington, in the county of McLean, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and faithfully discharge the duties of the office of firefighter according to the best of my ability, so help me God. All right, you did it. Congratulations. All right, Benjamin.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Thank you.
And got a good pen here. Yep.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you to all our first responders. Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you. Now we go on to public comment, and just to clarify, our normal policy is not to respond in public comment. Individuals have up to 3 minutes. If you want responses, or if you want answers, or you want to engage in public dialogue, you are welcome to the Mayor's Open House, which is between 4:30 and 5:30 on Fridays immediately before regular council meetings. So there was one last Friday, and there will be one this Friday. We just sit around the fishbowl, so you're all welcome. And at this point, we have 4 people who have filled out public comment. In this order, we'll take them: Scott Steinley, Chris Collins, Karen Kinsella, and, bless you, Renee Martin. Start with Scott.
Scott Steimling. My concern is I called the clerk's office Wednesday and inquired whether you would be having the mayoral open house, and I was assured you were. But before that, I recall, Terry, that you said that you don't have to have these, and that was a campaign promise, if you recall correctly. The other thing is the leaves. They get raked to the curb, and the people put them in the street, which cuts it down to one-lane street. But I forgot, we're not concerned about public safety, are we? Somebody just about hit me head on, and I had to stop and pull over and let them pass. It was not an emergency vehicle. It was a just a passenger car. Until the city puts teeth in this, they are going to continue. We get these big rains, they wash them right down, flood the street, plug up the storm drains or inlets that you people never get out and clean out. The streets are never raised. It's even with the curb. I forgot, but we have other things we have to do with that, don't we, Terry? You know good and well that you really made it sound like a great thing, and you have not delivered on a lousy thing, Terry, except raise taxes, and Tim is right there with you. And, you know, I really don't care what you think of me. I really don't. But I guess we had to have the recreational marijuana in this town because you got taxes off that, didn't you, Terry? And you can never tax enough. You know, the local motor fuel tax, you doubled that. And it's still not enough. You get a portion of the state income tax. That's still not enough. Utility tax. I could keep going down the list. And, you know, it is absolutely criminal. You have absolutely no competition when it comes to garbage collection. You have no competition when it comes to water. You have no competition when it comes to a lot of things. It's what Terry wants is what Terry gets. And this should not be McLean County. This should be renter country. By the way, you know, there are people that have said to me how badly they feel the streets are. I said, you're preaching to the choir. You go tell Terry Renner that. You tell the city council that. You tell Tim Gleason that. You tell Jim Karsh that. I hope you get my message, Terry.
Thanks again. Chris Collins and Kinsella.
Thank you. My name's Chris Collins. I'm the founder of a 501c3 charity here called Housing Our People Everywhere. Now, one thing he just mentioned was about the recreational marijuana tax being brought into the city. I would like to be able to come in and make a proposal that part of that tax revenue goes to our charity to be able to start youth programs, to end our homeless problem, to empty all of our shelters, and create jobs and opportunities for people that don't have them. I'm not asking for all the money. I'm just asking for a portion of it. So that way I can start teaching our high school students and our parole prisoners how to build a home that'll empty every shelter in the country. We're going to do this out of recycled steel. We're not going to use any wood to build our homes. We're going to use washers, dryers, refrigerators, stoves, water heaters, and cars. We're going to build a home that don't burn, don't absorb water. It's stronger, termite-free, mold-resistant, seismic, recyclable. Build it without a dumpster. Build it cheaper than wood. And get a 60% discount on insurance versus a wooden home. Those are 10 positive reasons without creating a job. The difference is we can create thousands of jobs here, but we can also create tens of thousands of opportunities for people to have a future. We need to get our people right. They need to stop suffering. The people on the street, we spend 5 hours a day with our officers harassing people on the street that are carrying bags just so they could see if something's wrong with them. They have nowhere to go. They're going to find out if they're carrying something, they're doing something wrong, they're drinking, doing drugs, whatever they're doing. The thing is, if we gave them a house and gave them a purpose and gave them an opportunity and the counseling, we can fix the drug problem, we can fix the alcohol problem, because we're not going to leave these people alone. People don't need to know they're alone. They need to know that they have help. They're not hopeless. They're not helpless. We do have a program. We became a 501c3 in 2018. In 2011, in this city, was a home built 1,800 square feet without a dumpster. I don't know anybody else in this city that's ever built that big of a home, but it takes 2 to 3 dumpsters to build that house. This one was built with none. It's 100% recyclable, but it was also built in the middle of the woods with cordless screw guns with 5 men in this city that never touched that material before. Your inspectors say it's the best built home in the city. Now, what could they do if they did this every day? We're going to build commercial built homes out of residential level, cheaper than you can build them out of wood, and they'll last for our children to have a legacy to live on forever. We want to start recovering and rebuilding every natural disaster and never use another tree. But as they're putting this marijuana tax out there, we've never used it, you've never had anything to do with it, but if I could get everybody off the street and give them a place to be, our officers will know where they're at. Our people that are in our agencies that are supposed to be helping them with their services can be there to help them, but we can also give them an opportunity to have a future and there it is. But I'd like an opportunity to be able to come and give that presentation.
Thank you. Next is Karen and then Renee.
Good evening. My name is Karen Kinsella, and I feel like I should give you a little bit of my background before I go into this, because I'm here because I'm against the legalization of marijuana. So, of course, I'm going to be against the dispensaries being able to consume marijuana at the dispensaries. I'm not even going to waste my time to dispute the legalization of marijuana because it's already a reality. But I have a teaching degree in physical education and health. I played basketball at Elmhurst College. I coached for over 6 years. I've taught health and fitness for over 10 years. So you can imagine how horrified I was, and I don't even know how to explain that the state of Illinois passed the legalization of recreational marijuana. I worked at Youth Build for 3.5 years, and it was my job to get the students off of drugs so that they would have a positive future. And now I am faced with the city government not only condoning marijuana use, but actually it seems like promoting the smoking of it. And as a health teacher, when has smoking ever been a healthy choice? So I was horrified to hear that. But tonight I'm here because I want to express my concerns. I have family here, I have friends here, and we have public safety concerns about going forward with consuming marijuana at the dispensaries. So here are our concerns. The police trained to identify drivers who are under the influence of THC. And what are the levels? Does anybody even know the measurements? What is the measurement that defines that they're over the limit? The police are supposed to go to special training. This is going to become legal by January 1st. Are they ready? I've seen nothing in the pantograph that addresses these concerns. As far as what I've heard, that renters are underrepresented because they are not allowed to smoke marijuana in the privacy of their rental units, that is a non-argument in my opinion, because I just did a simple Google search, and here's 24 ways to consume marijuana. If you take out all the smoking, that leaves, that's -6 in just this handout right here. So that leaves 14 ways to consume marijuana without smoking. So they are able to take it back to their private residence, and they are able to consume it in an edible, a tincture. They can put a topical cream. I can hand this out. I can give this to you, Mayor, if you'd like, for reference. Jen, I can give this to you for your reference because I know you were in the lead on that concern. Okay? So I can give this to you. So there is that argument, I think, is it's not a strong argument in my opinion.
Okay. I'm sorry your time is up, but you can give it to us if you would.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So can I make one more thing? I think we should leave this up to a vote. I think we should have a special vote, and the citizens of Bloomington should be able to vote whether they should allow the consumption of marijuana at the dispensaries.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank
you very much.
But please leave that with us.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening.
Of course. Renee?
My name is Renee Martin, and I spoke last time as well. I'm here to say opt out. I think there's not enough information out there, so I ask that you give it more time and don't be the first community to jump on the bandwagon. I Googled it because of course, Colorado has been legalized for at least 5 years, and I found a really good video, and of course, it points out the negatives, but the negatives that they point out are something that needs to be addressed. I mean, there's in the video, it's by the Marijuana Policy Initiative. It's called Chronic State, How Marijuana Normalization Impacts Communities, and it's really informative. And it talks about Pueblo, Colorado, which is about the size of Bloomington Normal. They have, I think about 100,000 and 100,000, 50,000 rural. And this, it really goes into all the negatives and the things that have happened to the schools. There was an ER doctor that talked about how the increase in psychosis in the ER, they really weren't prepared for all the different things. When you talk about marijuana, you're talking about not just one type of substance. You're talking about marijuana that might be 15% THC, or marijuana that might be a dab that might be like 80 or 90%. There's no control on it. So you have people getting a hold of it, children getting a hold of it from their siblings, going to the ER because they've overdosed on it. So I just feel like there's so many things that people in the community need to be aware of. And if you go forward and you go ahead and you allow it to be processed, sold, a lot of people I think are in the dark. So all I ask is maybe don't opt in right now, opt out, give it more time, get people more involved so they can see what really is going on. So that's all I ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Excuse me. We move right along to our consent agenda. And are there any items that the member of the council would like to have removed for separate consideration? Councilmember Matthey.
7C and 7D.
7C and D, as in dog? Yes. Okay.
Aye.
F.
Okay. Okay. Right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the exception of the items 7C, D, I, and F?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Boland. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Carrillo. Any further discussion? Seeing none, if everyone would go ahead and vote. Motion carries 8-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. I'm going to take these in the order in which they were pulled. Councilmember Matthey, you had items C and D. Obviously, you probably want to start with C. Go ahead.
So I pulled both of these just because they have to do with the BCPA. And I've got the BCPA on 7C and then the Creativity Center on 7D. Actually, I read it wrong. I apologize. I didn't mean to pull 7C. So I'm going to actually make a motion that we go ahead and approve 7C. I'm sorry.
Okay. Is there a second to a motion to approve 7C?
I'll second that. Thank you.
Okay. A second by Councilmember Bray. If everyone will go ahead and vote on whether or not to approve 7C. Motion carries 8-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. Councilmember Matthews.
7D. I
Okay.
apologize. So I pulled it because I've got a bunch of people asking about the Creativity Center and what's going on over there. And I just wanted to clarify, and I talked to Tim a little bit earlier this afternoon, that 7D, the roof and the HVAC, is spending money that was privately funded money. It was a private fundraiser like 12 years ago now that has been sitting in a restricted account at the city. The money was raised to work on the Creativity Center, and we're finally moving that ball forward. It is not money that's coming out of our operating budget or anywhere else out of our regular capital budget. I just had multiple questions today, and I just want to make sure that that was abundantly clear because it's a large sum here, that that money was all privately fundraised money from, like I said, I think it was 12 years ago at this point, something like that. So just wanted to put that out there for public consumption, make sure everybody was clear on that. And with saying that, I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve 7D as presented.
Second. A couple seconds. Second by Councilmember Painter. And I just want to say thank you for bringing that up because that is something that is often confused and sometimes people don't understand. But I'm glad that you helped make that clear. Thank you. Anything else? Any further discussion on that item? If everyone will go ahead and vote on 7D. Motion carries 8-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. We move right along, again, in the order in which they were pulled, to Councilmember Carrillo, and it's item 7I.
Yeah, and this might be common knowledge, and I might be late to the game, but I did get some questions from constituents about why the city of Bloomington owns farmland in Woodford County at all.
Yeah, I can go ahead and answer that. So that's kind of a funny one. It's a 50-year lease, and what happened was there was a group that wanted to have a like a wildlife preserve, and so the organization actually was able to apply for a federal grant, and my understanding is it was like $500,000 at that time, but the land itself needed to be owned by a municipality and partnered with the 501c3 in order for it to qualify. And so at that time, the land was donated to the city of Bloomington, and we own it, and we did a 50-year lease with this wildlife preserve group, and so it's not income producing for us, but we do actually own the land, and it's in Woodford County. That's it, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Are you
Well, I
making
just
a
wanted to
motion
know
Are you making a motion to
the
approve
story
7I?
behind it. Yes, I'm making a motion that we approve as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Emick. If everyone will go ahead and vote on this motion. Motion carries 8-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk, and we move right along to item 7F that Councilmember Craybill pulled.
Thank you, Mayor. Consent agenda item number F references the almost double increase in rock salt for this year, and so I just did a little bit of a Google search and found that some other cities are using alternatives to rock salt that are more environmentally friendly. Wisconsin's using cheese brine, city of New Jersey is using pickle juice, and then they talk about beet molasses, if you can think of that. So I've communicated with Tim and Jim, and I know that Jim and his department is looking into that a little bit. If he could just, wouldn't mind coming up and talking about that.
Mayor and Council, yes, actually, we'd already started doing some of that. From our own conferences we've been going to, that is a best practice that we're seeing out there. It's called anti-icing. So even before a snow event comes, you actually have equipment that goes out on the streets and you spray some of the roads, some of the major arterials, our primary snow routes. And the goal is to prevent the bond of the snow to the pavement, because once that happens, you really do have to increase your usage of salt. So one of the things we have already started getting quotes on, we're anticipating within the next 30 days, we've already discussed some of this with the city manager, wanting to make sure we'd like to try to pilot some of this. We do think this is something, while we're not, there's not a lot of folks around doing this currently, we think this is a good practice for us to look into and see how viable it is. It typically is you normally have your regular salt mix, so there's a 23.3% mix with the water to make a salt brine, but then you a lot of times do add other materials into that, and that it definitely is a cocktail, so to speak. And the one thing we haven't been able to find is the best practice. Everybody seems to have their own special mix of what they have. So we'll look into what works best in this area, what's available, but again, we'll work with the city manager on moving forward on that.
Great. Thanks so much, Jim. I move to approve consent item 7F.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Painter. Any further discussion? Everyone will go ahead and vote then. Motion carries 8-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. And we move right along then to our regular agenda. And we have consideration and action on an ordinance levying taxes for the city of Bloomington, McLean County, Illinois for the fiscal year beginning May 19, 2019 and ending April 30th, 2020. And it's an ordinance that essentially, from the standpoint of the average taxpayer, it's flat, and this has now been about, actually I think it's 11 years since the city of Bloomington has raised property taxes on individuals. The levy goes up because of new growth and new investment, but I will turn it over to our city manager, and I'm guessing Scott Rathman, who looks like he's prepared to come up and say something.
He is ready. Thank you, Mayor and Council. That is correct. The property tax rate has not changed very much, slightly, since 2009. And just a reminder for the community, the city of Bloomington and the library portion of the property tax bill is about 15% of the total property tax bill. I've got Finance Director Scott Rathbun that's going to walk us through this item and then also 8B. Scott?
Thank you, City Manager. This is an exact presentation as the November 12th estimate that was adopted by Council No changes were implemented during that time. So as you can see, we're looking at a 1.1% increase related to the EAV increase. For the city of Bloomington, we're realizing $225,000 in additional revenue related to that EAV increase. This helps us keep pace with increased costs, so it's just kind of a natural valuation increase along with the expenses. Library, as we stated before, its EAV increase, they're able to realize almost $64,000 in additional levies. I mean, they exist fully off the tax levy, so this really helps them out as far as increases in expenses go. So total tax levy for the city and the library, $25.4 million, $289,000 in additional levy dollars. But you can see the estimated tax rate been very consistent. Well, we're just showing 5 years here. But as the city manager noted, I looked it up today, Mayor, 2009, we've been consistent ever since. In 2008, we were at 1.256, or 1.3 has basically been where we've been out since 2008. So 11, 12 years, depending on how you look at that cutoff, very consistent for the city.
Yeah, I think what I was going to, I believe it was the January meeting 2008 where we, not we, I wasn't here, neither, I don't think there were any council members here, in fact there were none, that was the last time that the city council actually raised property taxes on individuals.
So, Scott, can I ask a real quick question when you got that slide up?
Yes.
On the general corporate, it seems to be, it went up in 2015 pretty significantly, and it did go up between 2018 and 19.
In 2000, I can't speak to the 2015 one. I'm assuming we had a significant pension increase that year. Well, no, the pensions are listed separately, so I'll have to do some research and find that one. I'm sorry. The other ones were related to, I'd have to look at the EAV increase as well. You know, that's what drives that line item primarily. I don't know if I can answer that right now.
15 might, some of that might be related, that's when Hy-Vee would have, Hy-Vee opened before that, but then it would have hit in fiscal 15. I mean, and that whole shopping center, there may be some other things like that helped increase, if that's the corporate taxes, property taxes. If that, anyway, you're the expert, you'll find out.
I will find out.
Yeah.
I'll let you know. Sorry about that.
Other questions? Anything else you want to add? Any other questions? Okay. Did you want to say anything then about, you want us to act on A before we go to B? Okay. Is there a motion then to approve item 8A?
So moved. Second.
Got to go. Okay. Okay. Since Alderman Milawambe often is our seconder-in-chief, we'll say motion made by Councilmember Craybill, seconded by Councilmember Milawambe. And any other questions? If everyone will go ahead and vote then on 8A. Motion carries 8-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. We go on to B. Mr. Gleason or Mr. Rathman?
Yeah, the property tax levy abatements is an annual occurrence. We've been, if we went back to the chart, you'd see that we levy approximately $2.2 million every year for our bond payments, debt service. Obviously, our debt service is well in excess of that, but our bond ordinances say that we're going to secure our debt with property tax levy, so we have to abate the difference between our total due and the tax levy of the $2.2 million. So this year, we're looking at a $6 million, a little over $6 million abatement for a little over an $8 million debt service for the coming years.
Questions of Mr. Rathman, excuse me, of Mr. Rathman. Councilmember Crable.
That abatement comes from our general fund, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, well, yes, any of the general major tax revenues, service revenues, et cetera.
Okay.
Other funding sources. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Is there a motion to approve item 8B then?
So moved.
Moved by Firster-in-Chief, Alderman Milawambe. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm not sure who the other second was, but I see Johnny Painter. So, Seconder-in-Chief, Councilmember Bray. Excuse me. Any further comments? Seeing none, if everyone will go ahead and vote. Motion carries 8-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. We move to the city manager's discussion. Mr. Gleason.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Scott, were we going to roll with events first? Okay. These are the upcoming events, and I guess a couple of things that I wanted to share with the pictures that we're going. I think we loaded 3 or 4. But our downtown's been really busy, and just wanted to share a couple of things. Thanksgiving Market was held on November 23rd. There were 33 vendors and nearly 1,000 customers at the Grossinger Motor Arena. Small Business Saturday was held on November 30th. 27 participating businesses and many downtown retailers reported that this was their busiest business day of the year. And then First Friday, this past Friday, Once Upon a Holiday live window vignettes was held on the 6th, hosted 29 participating businesses, and some reported as many as 300 visitors downtown. Also, we hope to see everyone at the Holiday Market on Saturday, December 21st, 9 a.m. to 12 noon at the Grossinger Motor Arenas. But a number of things going on in the community. That's all I've got, Mayor. No, I'm sorry. One other thing. No committee of the whole next week. Next week is actually our second council meeting of the month, moving out of the way of the Christmas holiday. So no committee of the whole, council meeting next Monday. Thank you.
And just inconsistent with that, one of the reasons why I am never able to say it's a second and fourth Fridays is a mayor's open house. So the mayor's open house was last Friday. We'll have another one on this Friday. And I just have a few things. First of all, I want to express condolences to personal loss of our city manager, Mr. Gleason, of his uncle. And on the more cheerful note, congratulations to Alderman Scott Black, who joined the group of millennials that actually are married. And I want to say also thank you to Alderwoman Johnny Painter, who joined me, and we had a great time at the annual Ewing Holiday Open House. It was a really great time, and it's really a jewel for our community. And I didn't have to say as many things and answer as many questions as Johnny did. So she did more of the work than I did and stayed longer. But thank you for that. And also just the increase in our downtown activities. And I want to thank our downtown investors and merchants and Melissa, as well as Billy and Tim, for all the really increased energy and vitality we see in our historic inner core. That's all I have. Council members. Got to be the first one.
Yeah. I just want to give a shout out to Bloomington Fire Department. We had an interesting day where there was actually a literal dumpster fire in one of the alleyways, and we at my store, we were not even aware it was happening until one of the fire department charged through the door and said, "I need out your back door right now." And I've never seen my staff move that fast before, so so that was exciting. And I really appreciated those guys. They were on site for like 5 hours dealing with the fire and making sure that downtown has a negative history with fires, so everybody's very happy that the fire department stayed to make sure there was no collateral damage. And the second one's a question for Tim. It might be actually probably for Mr. Karch. I got asked, I was here for the meeting with you earlier today, and I walked back to my store, and I got asked by 4 different people what was going on with the train sirens today, the train horns. And there's a lot of confusion, I think, that people thought we had a quiet ordinance for the trains coming through town, and I think that's only for one of the train lines. And I've been asked this question about a dozen times. I think people are just very confused what's going on with that. So.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. It is great to clear some of this up. So we have a quiet zone only for Union Pacific in this community. We have 2 railroads that go through our community, Norfolk Southern and Union Pacific. And in order to have a quiet zone on any of the rail lines, they have to meet certain criteria. Because of the improvements through the high-speed rail, we were actually able to capitalize on that, as normal was as well, to be able to say, let's go ahead and designate this area a quiet zone. Norfolk Southern does not have the same improvements at each of their crossings. Each of that, as I recall, all of that is on our website. We put this out there because this is a common question. So all this can be found on our website if you go out to that. But I believe it's about $450,000 approximately per crossing to make it compliant, and each one has to be compliant in order to be designated for that line to be designated as, again, a quiet zone. And so we capitalize on the high-speed rail work that was being done, and so we were thankful to have that in part of our community. And so Norfolk Southern is an area that is not currently a quiet zone. So we still do, for example, right here by City Hall, this is the Norfolk Southern rail line just south of here. And so that one, they, by their regulations, have to sound the horns as they come through town.
Thank you for clarifying that. I knew it was on the website, but I can share this video clip now. So with any next person to ask me, I'm just going to send a clip to them. It'll be easier. So thank you.
Glad to provide the link to the council as well.
Thanks. Councilmember Carrillo.
Yeah, just got back from vacation, so but I was keeping up, and so just want to give out a huge shout out because I know downtown has been just very lively, full of events. And I'm going to follow up individually with each of my fellow council members, but I do want to make one last public appeal on the cannabis issue. We have an opportunity to be a leader and not a follower, and I think this is our chance to step up. And if we want Bloomington to be seen as a leader by other communities, then we have to have the courage to make difficult decisions in moments like this. I don't think anybody can say that we rushed into this decision. You know, we've been talking about it for months and months. We have listened to a wide variety of different experts. We have done a lot of research. We have shared research amongst each other. And so, yeah, I don't think we're rushing into this. And I feel good about the work that has happened to, preceding this vote. I think to opt out is to govern based on a fear of the what if, as opposed to governing from a place of courage. And so I want to encourage us to spend the next week reflecting and thinking about how we can show up courageously on Monday. I think, the other piece is, again, the social equity part of this bill is really important, and I think, one of the things that has gotten lost in the conversation is that social equity component, the fact that in many of our neighborhoods, there are harms that exist from the war on drugs, and we have an opportunity to take leadership in repairing those past harms, and to do nothing is a decision in and of itself. So, I don't want to see us opt out and leave folks out. Even if we decide to opt out for now, we're effectively leaving a lot of people who are waiting for us to give them the green light so they can move forward with business plans and all the prerequisites that have to happen to open a cannabis-related business. We're leaving those folks out without a real good sense that there's going to be a way for them to catch up. So I want to invite us to usher in this change without kicking the can down the road. I'm afraid that if we don't make a good set of decisions on Monday, then this conversation is just going to go on and on. So I think right now the public has invested a lot of time and energy into giving us their opinion on this issue, so we should make good on that and vote to move forward, and let's try to make it as just as possible. And that includes, for me, on-site consumption. And, the reality is, regardless of how you personally feel about cannabis, I think, to me, what has become clear through all of these conversations is that the problems that could potentially come out of cannabis legalization are mostly already here, right? So people have been using cannabis. People have been potentially driving while intoxicated, and our police have been dealing with it, and, children have been exposed to it. So all those things are already happening. It's not like we live in a world where no one is consuming cannabis or has cannabis in their homes. But the point is now we have the opportunity to have some resources come in to help support our dealing with those problems. So,
And we will debate those next week. Final debate. Alderwoman Bray.
Thank you, Mayor. And just want to take a moment just to comment again about the fine quality of our community and all the activities that we provide for individuals and families. Just thank you to our staff, and thank you to these city council members who have worked so hard, some who have worked for years to establish a fine community. I look forward to us having additional discussion about the things that do affect the quality of life in our community and taking a realistic look at what's before us in the discussions that we'll have next week. The comments of Council Member Carrillo are certainly a deja vu moment. This is where we started. This is the very things that you've advocated for from the start. But as we've gone through this process, we've learned a lot. And we've got to look at the realities of the situation. One day, 25 months from now, I don't know, 7 years from now, there may be some merit to some of the things that are being asked here today from Councilmember Carrillo. But at this juncture, I think we need to go carefully to preserve the treasure that is our community. So I look forward to having some more discussion about that, and that will be next Monday. So thank you all.
Thank you. Councilmember Craybill.
I don't have all the information on this, but this Wednesday, and Jamie, you may know about Gene Anderson Awards, and I think that's public, right?
Yes.
Okay, it's at the Bistro, like 5:30, and we recognize volunteers that have really promoted and worked for the downtown community. Accurate? Okay, all right, just wanted to make that known. Thanks.
Thanks for mentioning that. I appreciate that. Okay, Councilmember Emick.
Yes, I also want to thank everybody for the festivities downtown. I had no idea you could make ornaments with hot peanut butter and birdseed on a pine cone. Birds love it. Yeah, it was fun. And you were a wise woman. But I wanted to give a shout out to the West Bloomington Revitalization Project. They had a great fundraiser based on the Mr. Rogers neighborhood. It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood. Beautiful day in the neighborhood is what it's called. And I think they filled the house. And it's always nice to be reminded of the kindness of Mr. Rogers. But I was glad that they were able to have a very successful fundraiser last week. And just yesterday, gosh, time goes. And the Gene Anderson Awards, I'm glad you brought that up because I had noted that and thought it looked like a really special event. So that's great. And I have a question for Mr. Gleason. I know that we were supposed to have Judy Buchanan join us, and she was unavailable because she wasn't feeling well, and I wondered if there were an update about when we might be able to hear from her again.
I think that continues on her front, but we need to get either a different city representative that's on the working committee and sort of targeting the committee of the whole meeting in January.
Okay. All right. Thank you. At this point, we're going to go into executive session. For those of you, including the media, who are here, you are certainly welcome to stay and hear our really, really riveting adjournment. That is really the only, there are no action items afterwards, but when we come back into executive session, the motion would be to come back into executive session and adjourn. That will be our public motion. Again, you're welcome to stay, but I need to clear the room now for our executive session. Yeah. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. And then the reason is for the executive session minutes. It's not a review of the minutes, not regular minutes, but minutes from the executive sessions of the past.
Under section.
Okay. I'm sorry, it's out. I can't. I apologize.
Yeah. Okay. When is the discussion Monday about the marijuana dispensary?
Okay. I can answer your question. Just, but it's technically it's out. I apologize. It's technically out of order. But we have the final vote on cannabis is a week from today. A week from today. Correct. Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, we need to clear the room. Thank you. Oh, excuse me. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Councilmember Craybill, second by Councilmember Matthey. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Matthey?
Yes.
Councilmember Boland?
Yes.
Councilmember Mwambwe?
We.
Councilmember Emig?
Yes.
Councilmember Painter?
Yes.
Councilmember Carrillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Craybill?
Yes.
Councilmember Bray?
Yes.
Okay. And as we're clearing the room, those of you that need to take a quick bathroom break are certainly welcome to do so.